On this spot, on September 13, 1993, an anomalous precipitation event of multicolored cubes, each ranging from approximately 5 to 30 centimeters in diameter, occurred over a 16-minute period. The cubes exhibited a to physical penetration, displaying no signs of degradation under any known material stress tests, although the cube's chromatic properties were observed to fluctuate when exposed to various forms of auditory stimuli, with specific frequencies and musical genres inducing distinct changes in hue. Following reports of local adolescents orally interfacing with the cube's red and green surfaces, an activity found to induce intense hallucinogenic experiences the youth were mistaking for communication with an ultra-terrestrial entity referred to as cerise rhyme. The objects were classified as a public hazard. Subsequently, all known cubes were confiscated by a specialized division of local law enforcement, Unit 313, and transferred to a secure containment facility. Further data indicated that physical contact with the cubes may have introduced a parasitic entity, often manifesting as segmentation and biological fusing. Advanced subosseous cranial shelling was also found in some extreme cases, with fractal patterns similar to those found in nautilus and mollusk conchological structures. While the exact purpose of these physical mutations could not be determined, studies did suggest an onset of advanced neurological functioning. In extreme cases, the parasites attempted communication with the host's nervous system, leading to disturbing and involuntary contortions of the body, as if the parasites were attempting to rewrite the very fabric of their host's physical form. Observers noted that these transformations often coincided with an overwhelming sense of disorientation and a profound detachment from reality, suggesting that the cubes exerted a profound influence on both physical and mental states. On this spot, on July 5, 1994, in an endeavor to achieve autonomy from municipal power providers, a selected structure in this immediate region was removed from the local electrical grid and retrofitted with experimental technology designed to create a self-sustaining electrical field utilizing unstable magnetic radiation. Upon activation, the building entered into a Casimir state, exhibiting pronounced phase transitions through multiple states of extra-dimensional matter, which resulted in significant alterations to the molecular composition of the adjacent environment. The operational period of this technology was marked by severe metamorphoses in the physicality of the residents, many displaying fractal patterns of unique biological segmentation, as well as enhanced craniocerebral structure growth, including irregular quantities of cephalic orifices. The lead architect of the project was described as an older man with a Germanic accent and monocular vision, operating under the pseudonym Gavin Armstrong. Subsequent investigations, however, conclusively invalidated this identity. He has not been seen since the initial experiment began, but reports persist of auditory phenomena emanating from the building's electrical panels, purportedly containing his voice pleading for release from a pocket dimension in which his own electromagnetic field appears to have become irrevocably ensnared. The technology, which Armstrong claimed had been gifted to him by an ultra-terrestrial entity he'd encountered while experimenting with psychoactive substances, was later appropriated by operatives from Unit 313 and transported to a secure facility.
On this spot, on November 17, 1978, municipal excavation teams identified an extensive network of subterranean tunnels beneath the local urban landscape, exhibiting a structural configuration analogous to a human-scale myrmecological nest. Preliminary analysis suggests the tunnel complex predates all human civilizations by several hundred millennia, with its construction attributed to unknown entities employing technology far surpassing current human capabilities. Further analysis revealed that the tunnel walls were partially composed of a material resembling fossilized bone, but with a molecular structure that rearranged itself when observed under different wavelengths of light. A member of the excavation team reported an interaction with a sealed portal within the tunnels, which he described as looking like the door to my grandma's house, and was allegedly marked with a sigil or glyph of unknown provenance depicted as a dot at the center of a circle inside an upward-facing triangle, all within a downward-facing triangle. The worker noted an overwhelming sensation of anticipation from the other side of the door, suggesting the presence of an entity in a state of passive dormancy, awaiting activation or contact. Their report states that they did knock upon the door, but denied there being any response. Despite exhaustive efforts to again locate the aforementioned door, no further evidence was found, leading to the eventual closure and concealment of the entrance to the tunnels. Official records now contest the veracity of the discovery, and the existence of the so-called human ant hive remains a subject of speculative discourse rather than empirical fact. This incident site remains of interest to those studying the intersections of pre-human architecture and potential non-terrestrial or pre-terrestrial influences.
On this spot, on February 15, 1985, at approximately 8:23 a.m., a biosynthetic tetrahedron, dimensions approximating 40.89 meters per edge, materialized at an elevation of 330 feet above the localized urban sector. The object exhibited self-sustaining levitation, accompanied by an audible oscillation, suggestive of an attempt to replicate harmonic structures despite an absence of identifiable acoustic apparatus. Several witnesses who stood beneath the pyramid's shadow suffered what would later be classified as cerebral events, with neural scans revealing chaotic patterns that defied conventional medical logic. Among the afflicted was a former priest who claimed a chthonic entity was stalking the city's streets.
The devil's name is Cirrus Rhyme, and he's come to eat both space and time,
the man explained to local police shortly before succumbing to self-immolation. After being present for 16 hours, the tetrahedron underwent a phase of spontaneous deconstruction, its corporeal form contracting into a singularity point before vanishing from the observable plane. Longitudinal studies indicate persistent psychospatial disturbances among local residents, manifesting as recurrent non-Euclidean dream states and disorientation related to spatial coordinates. The
SIAMR, Sublime Initiative for Abnormal Macro-Settlement Research,
a local scientific consortium, hypothesized that the phenomenon could involve ontological perturbations, potentially linked to quantum topological defects or
ultra-terrestrial incursions,
necessitating further investigation into the intersection of psychophysical feedback loops and non-standard geometric configurations in anomalous structures. On this spot, on July 12, 1987, a structure resembling a church with red walls manifested in the middle of the park, generating auditory phenomena described as unidentifiable dissonant hymns, with witnesses claiming that the song lyrics were entirely nonsensical, but that each stanza possessed
an extremely serious rhyme.
Subsequent investigations revealed evidence suggesting that the edifice was a semi-sentient entity, actively engaging in the ingestion of individuals who entered its premises, with the skeletal remains of the individuals being expelled in the form of pale white Bibles.
The aforementioned Bibles have since dispersed throughout the city, although the text within the volumes remains incomprehensible due to its coloration being indistinguishable from the white pages upon which it is inscribed.
Attempts to engage in ritualistic worship of the structure resulted in
Catastrophic failures.
In one documented case, a molecular-level fusion event occurred, in which all 16 members of a formerly Catholic choir were merged at the atomic level into a singular organism. The amalgamation of human forms was capable only of emitting agonized wails, until local law enforcement, unable to contain the situation, terminated the creature through high-caliber ballistic intervention. The structure's intrinsic properties theoretically align with anomalous theories concerning spatial temporal distortion and material ontogeny, suggesting the purposeful manifestation of a confluence of ultra-terrestrial aberrations with inherently predatory phenomenological processes.
On this spot, concluding on August 13th of 1980, this location was the site of a government-sanctioned study led by the esteemed scientist Martin Vorgangs. The objective was to investigate manifestations of anomalous phenomena observed in the area, and Vorgangs, known for his extensive work in theoretical physics and fringe science, had been granted special access to this site under the guise of a controlled experiment, although several of his research assistants have since come forward with allegations of psychological cruelty and illegal medical procedures. The study began with apparent tranquility as Vorgangs and his team set up an array of sensitive instruments, including research assistants whose brains had been chemically enhanced with a DMT-like derivative to measure fluctuations in local, spatial, and temporal metrics. However, what was intended as a routine analysis quickly escalated into chaos. While probing the mysteries of a local sigil, which was showing up in affected areas, the research team inadvertently seemingly made contact with the entity the sigil was meant to reflect.
The sigil functions as his name, and when you turn it on, you play his game.
One research assistant stated shortly before setting fire to the laboratory. The ensuing blaze consumed the research facilities, resulting in significant casualties. Among the survivors, Martin Vorgangs was notably affected, reportedly experiencing unilateral enucleation, resulting in the complete excision of the ocular globe, although those reports could not be substantiated, as Vorgangs went missing shortly thereafter. The aftermath of the incident left the area scarred both physically and emotionally. Unit 313 classified the event and subsequent findings under a high level of secrecy, attributing the catastrophe to experimental anomalies and unpredictable variables. On this spot, on January 12, 1991, The Kingsgate Mall experienced a temporary spatial convergence with a theoretical superstructure officially designated as the Limi Mall, a transitory non-physical space previously thought to be only accessible through REM sleep and/or the focused administration of a specific DMT derivative substance. Witnesses stated that the Kingsgate building entered into a complex Casimir state, exhibiting pronounced phase transitions through multiple states of extra-dimensional matter, which resulted in significant alterations to the molecular composition of the adjacent environment, while those situated within experienced fluctuative, nociceptive, eudaimonic emotional states. This event was said to have raised profound ontological questions, with some scientists suggesting that the Limi Mall may operate as a metastable construct within a higher dimensional framework, challenging the conventional understanding of spatial temporal boundaries with the intersection of physical and non-physical realms, indicating that reality manifests not as a static entity, but as a fluid continuum influenced by cognitive states. Though the convergence offered significant phenomena for scientific study, it was classified as a lethally toxic environment, comparable to those depicted in the unfiction novel. Unit 313 restricted subsequent studies, but a series of reports, hastily uploaded by rogue agents, appeared on a YouTube channel before being dismissed as an amateur art project. The SIAMR recommended continual surveillance, noting subtle ontological disruptions possibly linked to previous anomalies, though conclusive data remains elusive.
On this spot, on January 12, 2008, local residents reported their first encounter with the entities now referred to as hyper-angels. Described by one witness as a beautiful giant donut, or maybe a monster truck tire but covered in dozens of eyeballs and wings, the hyper-angels soon became synonymous with heightened traffic patterns and a sudden, inexplicable craving for pancakes. While their ultimate purpose remains unclear, they have since become a beloved and occasionally confusing fixture of daily life, often showing up to mid-morning yoga sessions and local trivia nights without an invitation.
The hyper-angels represent a meta-concept originating from a realm beyond conventional perception. Their existence suggests a chaotic intersection of dimensions, inviting existential hopefulness and dread as their intentions remain nebulous. More paranoid speculation speaks of concerns of predatory behaviors, not merely toward individuals, but toward the very fabric of reality itself. The following is from a paper written by Dr. The hyper-angels appear to be semi-recursive abstractions from beyond this realm. Maybe they're totally cool. Maybe they want to eat us. We don't know. Anyway, here's the thing. They're here, and they won't go away. Or to put it in scientific terms, initially presenting an ostensibly innocuous phenomena, the hyperangelic entities constitute a profound ontological perturbation at a subatomic and quantum field level, engendering significant implications for geopolitical and macroeconomic stability. Their sustained reticence regarding teleological intent, coupled with their persistent resistance to erasure from the space-time continuum, presents a rapidly escalating existential risk. What was previously perceived as a benign anomalous occurrence has, through continuous temporal dilation and increasing spatial intrusions, evolved into a progressively more oppressive and systemic existential threat, like the music that plays right before the shark attacks in that movie. Or, I don't know, maybe they're just a shared optical illusion, like swamp gas. Hey, it's not like I'm a doctor. Or wait, hold on. I am totally a doctor. Let's all try to remember that, going forward. I am totally a doctor. Anyway, these things freak me out. I'd say we should shoot them, but I'm pretty sure that'd make things worse. So for now, let's just leave them alone and hope they don't start trying to push us around.
On this spot, on May 11, 2001, a pack of radioactive howler monkeys escaped from an underground laboratory where they had previously been trained in the deadly art of capoeira. The monkeys formed a street gang, the Rainbow Chalupa Boys, rising quickly in the ranks of local roller derby competitions. Their dramatic tale concluded suddenly when, right before the big match against the rich kids from North Vancouver, the majority of the monkeys were consumed by Angsty, the sad killer whale, who had come up on land seeking fresh batteries for her Walkman. It's said that a couple of the radioactive monkeys still haunt this region, their luminescent green fur glowing like fireflies in the night.
All I need is sunshine and smooth.
On May 11, 2001, a cadre of bioengineered gamma-irradiated Simia radiata specimens successfully breached containment protocols at a subterranean research facility. These primates, enhanced with neurokinetic synchronization and indoctrinated into the lethal, rhythmic martial discipline of capoeira, exhibited extraordinary aptitude in subversive urban combat scenarios. Following their exodus, the collective adopted the moniker Rainbow Chalupa Boys, leveraging their accelerated reflex pathways and biomechanically enhanced mobility to dominate local interspecies roller derby circuits, rapidly ascending through the competitive hierarchy via a combination of agility-based maneuvers and tactical entropy. One witness stated, "Yo, my boy Ricky. He said he was down at the Circle K downtown, and there was this weird-looking guy going through the drinks at the back. And then Ricky peeked a little closer, and swear to God, man, I swear to God," Ricky says, "it was one of them Sasquatches. You know the big hairy dudes? They're like mountain apes, but they got white fur and they wear those big red robes with the yin-yang symbols." He said the Sasquatch was picking up a six-pack of some off-brand root beer, but then the thing took off without paying, and so Ricky asked the counter dude at the Circle K why he didn't chase the Sasquatch, or at least call the cops. And the counter dude said, "I guess it's like bad luck and not good for business to hassle Sasquatches. Something about how Sasquatches interact with the Wheel of Dharma or something." Anyway, my boy Ricky, he got one of them jumbo-sized Slurpees, and I'm not even kidding, he put every flavor in the cup. I'm serious. You should have seen it. It was totally awesome. But that's my boy Ricky. He's always been crazy. Anyway, if you're asking me about them Rainbow Chalupa Boys, they're bad news. all the way to Friday Man. Don't mess with them. No way, no how. You know what I'm saying? As for the gangs, some would say inevitable, demise. There are still those who whisper of a cover-up. These naysayers suggest that not only was prime suspect Angsty, the sad killer whale, never a real creature, and was actually just a character from an unpopular cartoon that aired locally in the mid-1960s, but that in fact the Rainbow Chalupa Boys' exodus from this grand experiment we call life was orchestrated by the Vancouver Police Department's own secretive paranormal squad, Unit 313. When asked for comment, Unit 313 denied their own existence, the existence of the Rainbow Chalupa Boys, and the existence of public libraries. Then they just kind of wandered off without any further explanation.
On this spot, on February 22, 2014, local residents reported their first encounter with the Skinwalker Eatery, a convenience store accessible only during lunar eclipses, offering human flesh-based snacks. Staffed by silent monks, all named Greg with ruby teeth and golden eyes, an original Polybius arcade game resides in the back, promising a deadly reward for anyone who sets a new high score.
Let me tell you about my
Big bowl of strawberry ice cream.
October 13th, 2012, in an anomalous intersection of urban space-time, locals reported the first documented appearance of what is now known as the Skinwalker Eatery, a transient, autonomous structure categorized under hostile consumer anomalies. This convenience store materializes irregularly on this specific block in East Vancouver, appearing during lunar eclipses and correlating cosmological events. Analysis indicates a unique manifestation pattern linked to atmospheric distortions and electromagnetic field fluctuations. The Skinwalker Eatery's inventory consists of atypical snack foods, primarily human flesh derivatives, formatted into ostensibly benign consumer items such as chips and chocolate bars. The products display no initial indicators of biological contamination, but upon microscopic inspection, reveal tissue properties identical to human adipose and muscular matter. Personnel. The establishment's operations are overseen by a group of silent entities clad in monastic robes, all of whom respond solely to the designation Greg. These entities, dubbed Gregs, exhibit ruby-colored dental structures and irises of gold with white sclerae, a configuration inconsistent with any known human anatomical variation. Notably, each Greg bears a striking resemblance to various serial killers who disappeared under incarceration. Independent verification of these resemblances is currently inconclusive. Consumer protocols and product observations. Upon entry, Patrons are subjected to a binding compulsion to sample each of the available liquid sustenance options, dispensed from a proprietary mechanism that resembles a Slurpee machine. The machine's reservoirs contain a rotating selection of cold soup formulations, the most noxious of which is colloquially referred to as gray clam chowder. Anecdotal reports suggest the chowder's viscosity induces physiological distress unless counterbalanced by the ingestion of a proprietary carbonated product, Mountain Dew Chicken Noodle Blast. Additional anomalous artifacts. At the rear of the eatery, an arcade station houses an operational Polybius console, reportedly one of the original 1981 cabinets. The machine, though heavily modified, retains basic functional mechanics and displays symptoms of game loop syndrome, a psychological condition characterized by player dissociation and repetitive behavioral loops. Above the console is an offer that incentivizes a new high score with a free order of nachos. Analysis of culinary item, nachos. The nachos served within the Skinwalker Eatery are atypical, composed of a polystyrene substrate coated in a reactive solvent, heated precisely to
346 degrees Fahrenheit.
Toxicological assessment of the nachos suggests they possess lethal properties for most human systems. However, visual records indicate the Gregs are impervious to this effect, routinely consuming the material without mastication. Witnesses describe this consumption process as simultaneously grotesque and captivating, suggesting an unclassified mimetic quality in the act itself.
Conclusions.
Current data remains inconclusive, but preliminary evidence suggests that prolonged exposure to the Skinwalker Eatery's unique environment induces alterations in both perception and biological structure. Visitors are advised to limit exposure and maintain psychological distance, and to remember that whatever remains uneaten inside the eatery has a tendency to follow patrons home.
On this spot. On July 2nd, 2003, the traffic light at the intersection of Union and Quebec began to glitch, which has continued randomly since then. The glitch is manifesting as the lights blinking in strange patterns and colors. If you witness strange lights at this intersection, it is suggested that you keep such observations to yourself, as many witnesses have stated that the retelling of such stories is considered gauche and annoying by most audiences.
July 2nd, 2003. The glitching traffic light of Union and Quebec has entertained and mystified scientists for over 2 decades, acting as a sort of tourist attraction to cosmologists and astrophysicists from around the world. The inferred meanings of the various light colors are as follows.
Small. Beware of random time dilations. You may encounter yourself in ways most unwelcome.
Amaranth. Turn back. Shadows breathe here, dancing at the edge of your gaze. eager to slip beneath your skin.
Verdigris, you have found a road that is not on any maps. Proceed with cautionary delight.
Thalu, do not sing the song you hear, or it will be the only thing you sing for the rest of your life.
Zafre, eyes close slowly around you, thick-lidded, unseen, but their weight is palpable. Be mindful. The path you walk is no longer yours alone.
Gamboge, make haste. Lingerers catch the eye of the unfathomable, a patient thing with a curious, impersonal hunger.
Glaucus, stop and wait, then stop and wait again. Realize that waiting is good for you. Waiting makes you healthy. Carnation, move silently, lest you disturb the sleeping, forgotten things, which will awaken to whisper your name in a way that will make you uncomfortable to hear. Oriolin, say your lines clearly and concisely, or you may wind up recast.
Forced to watch a new actor playing your role upon this stage.
Periwinkle, exits are now entrances. Adjust your travel plans accordingly. Do not get caught outside in the rain.
Orange, an unsettling surge. Brace yourself, slumbering figures stir. Somewhere, in the dark recesses of things, dreams wake with a hunger to be made flesh.
Heliotrope, do not cross here now. Belongings can and will transform into eerily lifelike cakes, delicious yet cursed, whispering sweet temptations to the unwary.
A research associate from the SIMR, Sublime Initiative for Abnormal Macro-Settlement Research, said in a public statement that
The electronically malfunctional luminescent phenomenon at Union and Quebec suggests a possible interaction between the localized quantum waveform of the traffic lights' photonic emissions and a previously unknown class of transdimensional particles, tentatively dubbed lumen fluxons. These particles may interfere with standard light spectrums, resulting in the observed color shifts, implying that the glitch could be a micro-wormhole anomaly, selectively altering neural perception and subtly warping space-time. In theory, repeated exposure might even synchronize the mind with parallel universes, where the street's reality is slightly askew.
while some of the light displays can be quite pleasant, even therapeutic, other variations can be found to disturb and disquiet some viewers, many claiming to continue seeing the light patterns for days afterwards, especially when in sleeping states.
Bald head of guacamole and head of fly.
On this spot, on June 25, 2007, a gang of children first discovered the green and red door, leading to the Invisible Garden, a dreamlike subdimension of playful whimsy and dangerous non-human entities. There are 13 rules that must be followed to safely navigate the Invisible Garden, rules which are freely available, but as of this time, only 2 citizens have yet to re-emerge from the space.
Wide range of high-quality yarns
June 25th, 2007. The 13 rules for the Invisible Garden are as follows.
Avoid sentient cheeses.
They are everywhere, and they are talkative.
Whisper to the void.
If you hear the void calling, respond softly. Yelling may wake the entities that sleep in the darknesses beyond reality.
Do not engage with digital eyes.
If screens begin to watch you, do not stare back. They are not out there for your entertainment.
Avoid souvenirs.
Memory-laden objects have the capacity to haunt you and future generations.
If you see a blue door, walk away.
All blue doors lead to occupied restrooms, and it's always super awkward.
Beware of equilateral triangles.
If all the angles are 60 degrees, it's probably a trap.
Greet gray people with a jaunty hello.
If a gray person approaches, engage with them in a friendly fashion, or else bad things could happen.
Avoid the humming pigeons.
If you hear a low hum coming from the birds, move quickly or risk being swept away.
Receive gifts from the shadows.
If shadows offer gifts, they will take offense if you do not accept.
Do not dance in the mist.
It is both dangerous and immoral to gyrate rhythmically in mists of any type.
Trust the giggling stranger with bugs for eyes.
Actually, this one might not be a good rule. We should really check these things.
Never look back at a fading light.
If a distant light begins to dim, keep moving away from it to avoid being receded into the horizon.
The Invisible Garden is a marvel of modern sciences, but it is also not a real place. Unit 313, the enigmatic, otherworldly division of the Vancouver Police Department, vehemently discourages any physical or emotional contact with the Invisible Garden, as well as all conversation about it, insisting that this is for the greater public safety. While only 2 private citizens have ever entered and exited the Invisible Garden, there have been several military incursions, all of which have been considered abject failures. The following is a partial transcripted recording of an interview done with a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces, whose name and rank have been redacted for security reasons.
We got there and the air was sweating, humid, like a fog you had to push through. We were on edge. We'd been told to expect hostile forces. We'd been told to be prepared to shoot on sight. But the enemy never came. We found the screens. Lenny, he freaked out, opened fire on one of them. It shattered with a strange sound, slow like rupturing tinfoil. Lenny got a bunch of glass in his face, lost both his eyes. He screamed so hard he started coughing up blood. Doc had to shoot him up with morphine, put him to sleep. We didn't take the body with us, so I guess he's still back there, slowly becoming part of that place. We found those missing kids. Our orders were to observe, then interrogate. If we suspected any biological or intellectual mutations had occurred, we would execute the group. We only ever got to talk to one of them. The rest just stayed out of range. She had these diffused pupils. It's hard to explain. We should have done it right then, but I wanted to interview her, to hear what she'd gone through. I wanted to learn something. That was my mistake. The one who spoke to us, she was the 9-year-old. Smart, like clever and fast. There was something wrong with her hands. I couldn't quite get my head around what was wrong, though. It was like when a computer tries to draw a person and it gets the fingers wrong. Too many digits or too many joints. It was uncanny. Kinda hurt your head to look at too closely. It still makes me feel fuzzy. Drugged. Something in the air, maybe. She told me a story, and then a story within a story. Combined with this interview, I don't know how deep that puts us. She told me things were going to change, and keep changing. She said a big man was coming, and he had a plan for everybody. A place and a plan for every soul in Christendom. She told me my name, my real name. Then she told me my mother's name and my mother's mother's name. She said to me, "This isn't even your dream." And then she fell back into the ground. That's when we lost her. It was like she had sunk straight into the soil, like the ground had opened up, swallowed her whole, and then closed like those sliding doors on Star Trek. We know there's something over there, and that over there doesn't even really exist. We know something's trying to come through, and these are the way it reaches into this world. We're inside it, like it's the plot to a story, or one of those giant whales that swallows the world. We shouldn't have gone over there. We have nothing to learn from that thing. But God, it sure wants to teach us.
Get that primitive look.
On this spot, on March 6, 2019, award-winning children's author Victor Kane was enveloped and seemingly swallowed by a large pair of lips which had sprouted from the exterior wall of a nearby building. A man matching his description perfectly was later spotted in Burnaby, limping badly and coated in a thick, saliva-like substance, but the man claimed to be no relation to the beloved children's author.
March 6, 2019. The disappearance and possible reappearance of Victor Kane is a perplexing tale with more questions than answers. Who was Victor Kane? To most, he was simply the reclusive, award-winning author of Hollow Words of Solid Reason, Good Lessons for Bad Kids, a collection of short stories written for young children. But what of the man, his character, his disposition? Of this, none could say. Orphaned at birth in a bizarre circus fire, the infant Victor Kane was adopted by a young couple who were later revealed to be the figureheads for a small Midwestern cult organized around oddly conflicting views on post-Pythagorean geometrics. The cult dissolved in the mid-1980s, when the members voluntarily submerged themselves in a thick, viscous acid, which reduced their biological structures to a fine, meaty paste, similar to the pink slime sold in some fast food restaurants. Victor Kane was the only survivor, and while some suggested that he in fact masterminded the cult's decision to go all gooey, as one reporter called it, there was never any evidence to support these claims. Years later, while studying metapsychology at UNBC outside of Prince George, Victor Kane participated in a drug study, mistakenly ingesting the doses for 16 other subjects, all at once. Kane reportedly then wandered off into the woods for approximately 2 weeks, before returning with what teachers and fellow students all agreed were some pretty weird ideas. It was after that experience that he moved to Vancouver and released his award-winning collection of short stories. While the book was famous for several years, it became notoriously difficult to track down after the original publisher disappeared, and now can only be read online. Of the lips into which Victor Kane was seen being taken in by over 16 independently verifiable witnesses, only a few facts are known. The lips were approximately 2.5 meters in height and feminine, with several witnesses comparing them to the ones made famous as the logo for the Rolling Stones. Other than being oversized and growing out of a building, the lips appeared to be healthy and ordinary, though they were oriented unnaturally, positioned vertically upright like a doorway. And they just gobbled him up. He was walking by and they opened up and swallowed him whole. And then there's the mystery of the other man, the one who appeared in Burnaby several minutes after Victor Kane was visibly consumed. Police officers at the scene said the man just stumbled out of some shrubs which nobody had seen him enter. He was nude and coated in a substance resembling human saliva, but the quantity would have taken several hundred people to have produced, leaving scientists stymied as to the origin of the fluid. This man, who witnesses insisted was visibly identical to Victor Kane, protested that he had no connection to the now missing children's author, but was unable to give any clues to his own identification, claiming it was none of anybody's business. He was quoted as saying, "All you need to know is that I work for somebody, a very serious man with a very serious plan. But he's not a man. He's all of us. Or he will be. And then none of this will matter. Look, I'm not even who you want me to be. Do you know what a tulpa is? Can you conceive of a thought form that's just as real as you are? Look at yourself, then look at me. I'm a face in the clouds on the wind. I'm what you'll be when you're ready to outgrow what you are." The unknown man disappeared shortly thereafter, as paramedics were attempting to discern his identity and place of origin. "We looked away for just a second and he was gone. I don't mean he disappeared. We saw him running off into the underbrush. I think he was giggling. Nobody knew what to do. Once he was in the trees, he was like, 'Gone, man.' That was a few years ago, but I can still hear his laughter whenever I drive past Deer Lake Park at night." There are some who say Victor Kane was abducted and taken to a secret underground military base, where they're using his strange ideas to build perceptual confinement matrices for ultra-terrestrial beings. Me, I say that because it's true. That's what happened, and that's what's happening. Whatever went on within him after he did those drugs and ran off into the woods, it made his brain into a labyrinth of riddles that can ensnare psychic parasites, and now he's being trained to contain and manipulate ultra-terrestrial entities for entertainment and personal profit. I can't prove it, but I know it's real.
On this spot, on November 08, 2016, an elderly figure began appearing on random moonlit evenings outside the Main Street SkyTrain entrance, offering small live moths in glass bottles for purchase. Those who have purchased a moth report distressing dreams and ontological disorientation, often expressing uncertainty as to whether they are the moth or the moth is themselves.
File 328D.
With their first recorded appearance occurring on November 8, 2016, the Moonlight Moth Cellar of Main Street and Terminal is perhaps one of the more subtle ways in which reality can be seen to be fraying throughout East Vancouver.
Physicality and social contextual framework.
While the gender and ethnicity of the figure is unknown, as they are wrapped quite heavily in fabrics of many different textures and colors, obscuring their general identity, what can be seen of their face, optical and oral apertures, suggests an indeterminately elderly age and an unquantifiable background. Some have suggested that the moth seller's accent denotes a Slavic or Germanic background, while others are quite insistent that the regional linguistic affectations are more likely of Asian influence, suggesting of a childhood spent speaking perhaps Mandarin or Korean.
Amphiasmenoptera epistemological conditions.
The moths themselves are of a uniquely iridescent variety and come in a plethora of sizes and even shapes. But in the years since their first appearance, over 24 citizens are estimated to have purchased moths, with medical records revealing that within days of acquisition, all reported dreams of being trapped in an invisible enclosure, futilely battering their wings against an unseen barrier in a desperate but unattainable bid for freedom.
Containment attempts.
Agent 6 of Unit 313, Vancouver's Paranormal Investigation Squad, has stated that, while authorities have made attempts to apprehend the moth seller, it is not recommended that citizens interact with them or their moths in any way. The illustrious and devilishly handsome Agent 6 also proclaimed emphatically that winners don't use drugs, but that may have been related to something else. Of course, the moths are not illegal to purchase, as such restrictions would be near impossible to regulate. Rather, it is advised that citizens be conscious of the ontological threats posed by the moth's psychotropic influences, which some have compared to the reality-distorting capabilities of substances such as DMT, LSD, and salvia, or when you mix them together. I smoked salvia while I was on acid one time, and I saw the edge of the universe. Nearly fell off it too. But that doesn't have anything to do with this, I think.
Phenomenological theories and interpretations.
Alton Fizz, macrobiologist and researcher for the SCIAMR, Sublime Initiative for Abnormal Research, suggested that the moths could be a symbolic presence made physical, an aspect of the region's spirit or vibe. In his award-winning paper, Neurocognitive Interfaces in the Context of Ontological Displacement, a study of human perception and reality fracture, Fizz wrote,
Moths are connected to the moon. And what is the moon if not a doorway of knowledge and reason that opens in the dark of the night? I have looked into the eyes of the customers of the moth cellar, and let me tell you, they welcomed it. The change, the alteration. Maybe not at first, Obviously, that kind of enforced intellectual mutation is an extremely painful and surreal experience. But eventually, when they learned to let go, to release, to accept what was happening, they were finally able to admit to themselves a basic truth that they had always known. That everything that had ever been important to them, all their memories, their hopes, their fears, their loves, it was all just a dream. A dream had by a flying bug, trapped in a small glass jar. But how do you look yourself in the eyes after you learn that? Poor fools were better off dead.
Of course, Fizz was later discovered to be the serial murderer who'd been pinning his victims to corkboards and displaying them in glass cases throughout his home. But despite his obvious social-emotional ailments, he still seemed to have some pretty interesting ideas about the whole moth cellar situation. Authorities have warned that a few of his victims have yet to be found, and worry there is still one final grim tableau hidden somewhere in the city, awaiting discovery.
Conclusions.
As to the moth seller's motivations, much can be assumed, but nothing can be truly known. Whether they are an independent agent or part of a larger conspiracy, they represent a clear manifestation of the ontological perturbations which are straining the atomic coherence of local space-time matrices. But are they trying to hurt people or help them? As with so much of the studied phenomena in this paper, it's really a question of personal perspective. Look, buy the moths, don't buy the moths. It's really up to you. You're choosing your own adventure, that's what free will is. But don't be surprised when you find yourself bumping into walls that don't seem to be there and dreaming while you're still awake. You want to know what that feels like, your mind and body subtly warping over time, confusing your own awareness of yourself, your consciousness undergoing a physical metamorphosis that you experience in real time? If that sounds good to you, then head down to Main and Terminal on some moonlit night and look around.
See if you can find somebody who wants to sell you a moth in a jar.
On this spot, on April 27, 2009, locals first experienced a weather pattern localized specifically to 5th Street, producing dense clouds of violet fog, seemingly populated with aggressive squid-like entities. This fog is occasionally accompanied by calming, oceanic flute music, which has reportedly compelled some listeners to disrobe and venture out into the mist, never to be seen again.
April 27, 2009. Initial incident report.
On April 27, 2009, at approximately 23:32 p.m., a localized weather anomaly blanketed East 5th Street in an intense violet fog. This phenomenon, noted for its striking density and unearthly hue, was confined entirely to the street and its immediate vicinity. Witness accounts and later investigations described the fog as having an unnatural quality, its movements pulsing with a rhythm that seemed deliberate rather than random. Embedded within the mist were reports of entities, described in various ways but consistently likened to squid-like forms. These creatures were said to move with both grace and aggression, though direct interaction has only been reported anecdotally. The fog carried a sound, a haunting, oceanic melody resembling flutes or whale songs, described by witnesses as deeply calming. However, the music's influence appeared insidious. Multiple individuals reportedly disrobed and walked willingly into the mist, ignoring attempts to stop them.
None of these individuals have been seen again.
Witness reports.
I seen them go in it. I wouldn't. I know better. I might not be a homeless, crack-smoking maniac or some dope-smoking anarchist, but my mama still raised me with some Jesus, and I ain't going into that bottomless pit. Not with my head held high, and sure as hell not naked like them others went. I seen them. They hear that music, and they're like hippies on acid, stripping down and running off to dance, and you know what they get up to out there. But it ain't no party waiting for them. It ain't no Woodstock. That fog is death. What goes into it don't never come out. You ever heard like flutes, like that fancy orchestra music? You gotta imagine that, but deeper, way deeper, like whale songs at the bottom of the ocean, cutting through all that dense, dark water, and it makes you feel so sleepy, a little like when you were inside your mama, listening to her heartbeat. You hear that, and you just want to fall into it forever. But I don't. I heard it, seen it, and I never went in. I might not know much, but I know the face of our Lord Christ, and that ain't it. That's the other one. You know what I mean? They teach you about him in Sunday school, and after a time, you start to think he ain't real. He's just a metaphor or a fable. But he's out there, waiting. And that fog, that's his breath, daring you to step into his mouth. I seen the other folks go. They went willingly, happily, but I won't go.
Other witnesses corroborated hearing the music and seeing the fog's strange shapes, but refrained from entering the mist, with many reported experiencing unease and paranoia after prolonged observation.
Residual effects.
The fog dissipated approximately 43 minutes after its appearance, leaving behind an iridescent cubic residue clinging to the street and surrounding buildings. These cubes ranged in size from approximately 5 to 18 centimeters and were found to be oily to the touch and shifting in color, defying chemical analysis. Since 2009, the fog has returned sporadically, always confined to East 5th Street. Its appearances are unpredictable, but are consistently marked by the same violent density, haunting flute-like music, and the presence of strange, undulating shapes within.
Despite the intervals between its manifestations, the pattern remains consistent. Those who enter the fog are never seen again. The unearthly phenomenon has become both a local legend and a lingering source of dread, its presence a constant reminder that some mysteries and mists are better left unexplored.
Personal notes. We've seen colored cubes before. Psychoactive, psychotropic cubes. Arcane geometrics, shapes with their own agendas, suggestions of eldritch isometrics and non-Euclidean architects. The 5 fingers of a 3-dimensional hand becomes 5 unconnected circles on a 2-dimensional plane. I think we're seeing something manifest that's larger than our whole reality. I used to think the fog might be a living thing, consuming those who went out into it. Now, I keep thinking about that movie where the cartoon characters and the real people were interacting. What would that actually look like? Something from that flat world reaching out into this one. What would it look like to them when we invaded their spaces? Are we seeing that now?
On this spot, on August 19, 2011, city workers unearthed a seemingly ancient vending machine buried 60 meters below ground, encased in solid rock, yet fully operational when connected to power. The machine's buttons display arcane symbols in place of prices, requiring payments in specifically shaped stones to release its contents, which have included lizard eggs and what appears to be a mummified human heart.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else...
There'll be no Cape Canaveral for anybody!
File number 276A.
August 19, 2011. The arcane vending machine. Initial incident report.
Unearthed during regional excavations, the device referred to as the arcane vending machine has, for over a decade, baffled and intrigued both scientists and students of the occult. Though of indeterminate yet clearly extreme age, the vending machine remains fully operational and has proven entirely impervious to external tampering.
Origin.
The location of the machine's discovery suggests a pre-human origin, though evidence of any such civilization remains unknown and unproven. Some scholars theorize that the machine predates human civilization entirely, perhaps originating from an era when a superior species managed humans as resources, much like humans today manage cattle and poultry.
Symbolism.
While some of the simpler symbols on the machine hint at possible druidic or Wu origins, several
SIAMR
researchers argue that its more intricate designs suggest non-human craftsmanship. Researchers claim this is evident in the use of non-Euclidean line work and anti-paraconal data constructs, both of which induce psychological distress when studied for extended periods. Prolonged study has also been linked to a disturbing phenomenon: recurring dreams of impossible architectures and a landscape lit by two suns, one of flesh,
the other of bone.
Contents.
Since its discovery, at least 13 items have been procured from the machine. These include
a plastic dinosaur skull, a paper bag of blood-soaked rags, a Greek salad, a stone which cures diseases when swallowed whole, an irritable blind mouse, a sphere of cheese, a 23-sided die, a list of seemingly unrelated items. Further contents.
On December 21st, 2019, a
SIAMR
researcher, Dr. Jacqueline Frost, acquired a wriggling gray egg that whispered a riddle in a voice identical to her mother's. The egg later hatched into a translucent, jellyfish-like creature, attaching itself to the doctor's spine, reportedly granting her visions of a possible future where the machine ascended into a godlike entity shaped by the straggling remnants of humanity. On the back of the machine, the phrase
"Lend a dime to Cirrus Rhyme"
is etched, likely scratched in by a human fingernail, though some studies suggest it was carved using a human bone. The meaning of the phrase remains unknown, but it is accompanied by an archaic glyph associated with an ultra-dimensional entity and their passage into our realm. In her award-winning paper, Meta-Perceptual Collapse, analyzing the existential destabilization and psychocognitive fragmentation induced by autogenic mechanisms in post-human contexts,
SIAMR
researcher Dr. Jacqueline Frost proposed that
"Lend a dime to Cirrus Rhyme"
may serve as a mantra designed to unlock the machine's final purpose, opening a portal to the outer church and pulling its horrors into our world. Dr. Frost's theories were widely celebrated until it was revealed that the outer church is not a real place, but a fictional hell dimension created for a pornographic sci-fi comic from the late 1990s. While some argue her conclusions may be metaphorical, others now question the validity of her research entirely.
On this spot, on March 08, 2000, residents first encountered the lilac payphone, a pale purple public telephone that appears on rainy days, playing haunting oceanic music that lulls users into a calm, restful state. Eventually sprouting vines into their ears, embedding itself in their minds, these transformed listeners can become psychically tethered to the payphone, later seen gathering in early morning fog, drawn together by a mysterious force as the city sleeps.
What's in the box?
File number 163A. March 8th, 2000. Introduction.
On March 8th, 2000, the Lilac payphone was first documented by residents of the Commercial Drive area. This anomalous entity presents itself as a pale purple public telephone that appears exclusively on rainy nights. The haunting oceanic music which emits from its receiver and the inexplicable effects on those who interact with it have puzzled researchers and instilled a deep unease in local populations.
Two, physical description and characteristics.
The Lilac payphone superficially resembles a standard payphone, yet exhibits several anomalous traits. Its casing is a pale, almost luminescent purple, exuding a faint floral aroma. The handset's receiver plays a continuous oceanic melody described as hypnotic and laced with subsonic frequencies. These tones are theorized to interact with the neural pathways of listen, inducing a tranquil, almost trance-like state.
Interaction with humans.
Engaging with the Lilac payphone initiates an intriguing sequence of events. The receiver, when held, releases slender, vine-like structures that infiltrate the auditory canal of the user. These vines, organic yet alien, embed themselves within the neural tissue, forming a lasting psychic tether. Despite the invasive nature of this interaction, no reports of physical pain or emotional distress have been recorded.
4. Behavioral changes in affected individuals.
Individuals tethered to the payphone exhibit subtle but marked behavioral shifts. They are drawn to the payphone's location during early morning fog, gathering in silent, trance-like groups. These gatherings suggest an unseen influence orchestrating the movements of the affected, potentially indicative of a larger unknown purpose. Though it has been suggested that the transformed users, having experienced intense patterns of cerebral overgrowth, perhaps now function as biological number stations.
5. Theoretical implications.
Speculation regarding the Lilac payphone's origin and purpose abounds. One prevailing theory posits that the payphone is a biomechanical organism as a dual sensory and reproductive apparatus. Its floral traits, including the aromatic casing and vine-like structures, suggest it may operate as an ultra-terrestrial flowering plant, with the payphone representing both petal and stigma in a non-terrestrial pollination cycle.
6. Environmental and temporal correlation.
The Lilac payphone is exclusively observed during rainy nights, suggesting atmospheric moisture may serve as a catalyst for its manifestation. Rain could act as a symbiotic trigger, providing the entity with the conditions necessary for its ephemeral materialization.
7. Resistance to study.
Attempts to analyze the Lilac payphone have proven futile. Efforts to dismantle or relocate the device result in its immediate dissolution, leaving behind a faint, unidentifiable residue. This elusiveness prevents direct study, heightening the mystery surrounding its nature. The lilac payphone represents an intersection of the biological and the mechanical, challenging conventional classifications of life and technology. Its ability to alter human behavior and its resistance to empirical study suggest a phenomenon operating far outside known scientific parameters. Further investigation is necessary, though the risks posed to those who interact with the entity remain a significant barrier.
On this spot. On January 3, 2015, local residents were held hostage for 36 hours by the hermeneutical terrorist known only as the Fad Bomber, who threatened to detonate an explosive device, which would have brought back acid-washed genes to the general region. While authorities were able to prevent most of the damage, citizens are still warned to be wary of the following cultural manifestations: yo-yos, bell-bottom trousers, the Macarena, and curly mustaches.
Transmitting video information backwards through...
Time for chili.
File number 311A. January 3, 2015. Initial incident summary.
On January 3, 2015, this neighborhood became the stage for an extraordinary and unsettling event, when for 36 hours an individual known only as the Fad Bomber held the area hostage, threatening to detonate a device capable of reviving acid-washed genes and spreading them across the region like a cultural plague. Dressed in a chartreuse zoot suit with a matching wide-brimmed fedora, his face obscured by an oversized domino mask in a style reminiscent of the Green Hornet. The bomber's demands were as cryptic as the eradication of all objects tied to the years 1983 to 1997, the closure of 4 specific thrift stores, and the creation of a cultural purification zone. Though agents of the VPD's Unit 313 were able to neutralize the device, the aftermath of the incident lingers in unsettling ways. The warbling hiss of phantom yo-yos spinning in alleyways, a faint odor of the Macarena drifting through rainy nights, and reports of residents waking to find perfectly curled mustaches they never cultivated.
Origin theories.
Legends of the Fad Bomber's origins are as strange as the man himself. Some say he went to the crossroads seeking to sell his soul to the devil in exchange for power. Yet, as the tale goes, the devil declined, calling him a total square whom nobody liked. Embittered and desperate, the young man turned to darker avenues. According to rumors spread online, he came into possession of a peculiar tome, the Trendonomicon, an unholy fusion of the anarchist's cookbook and the narcotic manuscripts. This book, scrawled with impossible formulas and forbidden designs, granted him the knowledge to craft devices that could infect reality on a cultural level. Fashions and trends were no longer harmless whims, but molecular weapons capable of altering the very fabric of society. Whether this tale is metaphor or fact, it offers a chilling lens through which to view his actions. Was the bomber merely a disgruntled eccentric, or had he glimpsed some deeper truth about the parasitic nature of cultural nostalgia?
Lingering effects.
Since the incident of January 2015, those who live near the site report strange phenomena. Visions of ghostly mannequins who seem to dance when unwatched. Dreams of endless fields littered with slap bracelets and beanie babies, and sudden inexplicable urges to don clothing they've never owned. Some believe these effects are residue from the bomber's device. Others whisper that the book itself remains in the localized region, waiting for another restless soul to crack its spine. For now, the fat bomber remains a mystery. His device was disarmed, his demands thwarted, but his legend endures, a reminder of the strange and fragile membrane separating past and present. It's said that if you ever find yourself drawn to an old trend with unexplainable fervor, or if your reflection dons garments you've never worn, resist the urge to indulge. Some eras are best left behind.
Final thoughts.
Some theorists have suggested the fad bomber's actions might go beyond surreal villainy, with rumors circulating that the bomber has, on occasion, engaged in peculiar acts of altruism. Residents of local homeless encampments claim to have received donations of rare and nostalgic food items: Pac-Man breakfast cereal, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fruit pies, and McDonald's pizza. These items, despite being long out of production, were reportedly fresh and edible, even delicious. This contradiction casts doubt on Unit 313's designation of the Fad Bomber as a level Omega toxic persona, and raises unsettling questions about their true motives. Are they a villain, a benefactor, or something far stranger?
On this spot, since June 5, 1997, the translucent lighthouse has periodically emitted anomalous lights which have been linked to psycho-responsive solar phenomena and ultra-terrestrial life forms. Its interactions with the northern coast mountain range suggest the presence of a colossal, reality-disrupting entity whose very existence would threaten all of human society, prompting strict restrictions by Unit 313.
Demons to some, angels to
other major religions. They're all pretty much the same.
File 136A. June 5th, 1997.
We tried to warn them, but they wouldn't listen.
Part 1. Initial Impressions and Theories.
First appearing on March 7th, 1982, the translucent lighthouse is an aberrant structure manifesting in this region exclusively during new moon phases when celestial illumination is weakest. Hypotheses about its function vary from an archaic cultic assembly point predating human history to a modern apparatus for dispersing unknown airborne particulates.
Part 2. Internal Investigations.
An unidentified subject who claimed to have entered the translucent lighthouse reported an interior replete with non-terrestrial machinery. The mechanisms observed, described as containing oscillating components and self-modulating gears, appear to defy standard principles of mechanical engineering, suggesting an extra-dimensional origin or influence.
Part 3. Illuminative Oddities.
When activated, the translucent lighthouse's beams produce non-Euclidean photonic anomalies, notably orange-hued shadows which fail to correspond to their originating sources. The resulting light patterns project silhouettes consistent with the most current theoretical models of ultra-terrestrial entities, specifically those associated with psycho-responsive phenomena. This aligns with prior research into the Cirrus Rime entity, whose manifestations are theorized to oscillate between benign and malevolent, depending on the cognitive and emotional states of observers.
Part 4. The Thing in the Mountains.
Of particular concern is the anomalous interaction between the translucent lighthouse's illuminative projections and the topographical features of the northern coast mountain range. These projections suggest the outline of a colossal entity, vastly exceeding any recorded terrestrial life form, whose mere implication could threaten to unravel the fabric of human civilization, with the presence of this entity appearing to induce
profound psychological disturbances,
potentially driving populations from the structured confines of societal order into a state of
cultural disintegration.
Part 5. Conclusions.
Due to these observations, the translucent lighthouse has been classified as a high-risk site, and all future interactions are restricted under the purview of Unit 313's preset ontological and psycho-reactive containment protocols. Partial transcript from Interview with City Worker, whose identity has been redacted for security.
Upon excavation of the area, once the lighthouse had dematerialized, we discovered an object which resembled a television from the mid-1980s. However, when we peeled back the glass and metal of the outer casing, what we found inside was meat. Living meat. Tissue wrapped around bones. Veins carrying a sort of gloopy brown blood. There were dozens of what appeared to be ocular appendages and even a sort of rudimentary mouth. It screamed when we tried to dismantle it. I suppose we should have stopped, but Dr. Frost insisted that we keep working, even as the thing tried to form its inarticulate sounds into words, like it wanted to communicate. But of course, words can't communicate as clearly as actions, and after the thing took off Kenny's arm, we knew we were in for some real trouble. 16 men, mutilated, some past the point of recognition. And what did we get out of it? What did we learn? I heard that somebody eventually decided that the thing was some sort of egg, like the building was trying to procreate itself. There's probably more, scattered throughout the area. They look like trash, like household objects that were thrown away, until some kid gets too close and loses a hand. We tried to warn them, but They wouldn't listen.
On this spot, appearing inconsistently since February 16, 1999, the 3 a.m. donut shop is marked by sensory distortions. Walls with shifting temperatures, fluorescent lights that hum at an unnerving pitch, and a disorienting sense of timelessness. Suspected to be a predatorily toxic liminal space, reports include details of a recursive layout capable of trapping patrons in endless loops, staff in extreme states of sorrow, and an oppressive atmosphere of regret.
Did I ever tell you?
My favorite color is blue.
File number 152C. February 16, 1999.
If you're not careful and you no clip out of this neighborhood, you can end up in the donut hole, where it's nothing but the stink of old burnt coffee, the madness of the pink and orange checkered linoleum flooring, the monotonously ceaseless drone of fluorescent lights humbuzzing at their peak frequency, pools of syrup slowly drying in the cracks of the counter, and approximately 600 million different types of donuts to sample. God save you if you hear the staff wandering around nearby, because they sure as hell have heard you.
Initial observations.
Since February 16, 1999, anecdotal observations and testimonial accounts have documented phenomena attributed to an anomalous establishment designated as the Donut Hole. Atmospheric conditions within this locale are characterized by a pervasive olfactory profile dominated by volatile organic compounds, reminiscent of degraded fryer oils and saccharides in advanced stages of olfactory desaturation. The chromatic properties of the interior walls exhibit a destabilized spectral hue, oscillating between thermal perceptual extremes, simultaneously inducing sensations of excessive warmth and incongruous coldness in observers. Electromagnetic emissions from fluorescent illumination systems produce an acoustic output with a fundamental frequency at the threshold of nociceptive auditory response, exacerbating neurophysiological tension. Spatial temporal inconsistencies manifest in the external visual field. Parametric vistas exhibit recursive properties, consistently redirecting observational trajectories toward their point of origin, regardless of observer motion vectors. Tactile and gustatory analyses reveal an incongruous sensory paradigm. Countertops demonstrate adhesive surface properties indicative of non-uniform particulate accretions, while consumables, specifically donuts, present visually normative exteriors that belie a profound gustatory dissonance upon ingestion, described subjectively as analogous to somatic regret. Personnel within the establishment display behavioral idiosyncrasies suggestive of affective dysregulation, including uncorroborated reports of concealed weeping. The anomalous entity has been formally classified as a toxically liminal space within the framework of hyperspatial anomalies. Notably, the establishment's interior architecture features a tessellation pattern reminiscent of the paradoxical geometries associated with M.C. Escher, exhibiting properties indicative of theoretical spatial infinity. This configuration permits the indefinite accommodation of patrons, concurrently sustaining temporal stasis, wherein individuals may remain entrapped ad infinitum. The
The auditory ambience is dominated by continuous soft jazz soundscapes, acoustically engineered to evoke the psychosomatic disorientation, commonly associated with hypnagogic confinement, analogous to prolonged entrapment in a conceptualized elevator setting. Sections of the structure display incomplete materialization, with surfaces manifesting as irregular, low-resolution suggestive of computational rendering anomalies. These features have precipitated speculative hypotheses positing the establishment's existence as a synthetic or digital construct, potentially operating as a simulated environment embedded within a digital substrate.
Employees.
The staff at the 3 a.m. donut shop are just like normal people, but sadder. They all look and act like they were just dumped, and know that once their shift is over, they'll have to go home and pack all their stuff in some boxes and find a new place to live. And the truth is, Heather is probably happier now.
Witness account.
One witness stated, "Oh, hells yeah, I've been to the donut hole. It's no joke, Jake. It's the realio dealio. That's where my boy, Leroy, told me about how there's shadow wolves hunting downtown, right? He says there was this crazy homeless lady who kept trying to adopt puppies, but she couldn't care for them all, so she made a deal with this Cirrus Rhyme character to turn them into, like, cartoons, so they could live free and never be hurt. You know, like how a cartoon is flat in 2 dimensions. That's what these dogs are. Except, I guess the dogs seen how the city had abandoned and mistreated that old lady, and it made them mad. And that madness over the years transformed them dogs into wolves. So now there's a pack of these shadow wolves moving around the city, late at night, hunting for pieces of shit who ain't got no empathy for folks living on the street."
Excerpt from Professor Aldo Fassendagle-Blumenwerfel's book, Mysterious and Imaginary Shops of the Pacific Northwest.
Ah yes, the donut hole, where the air reeks of stale fryer grease and syrup that's turned bitter. The walls a sickly, faded pink that feels too warm and too cold at once. The fluorescent lights hum at a pitch just high enough to set your teeth on edge. And no matter where you sit, the view outside the windows loops, forever showing the same rainy streets that lead back to the same corner you just passed. The counter is sticky, the coffee burnt, and the donuts all look fine until you bite in, only to find the taste is off, like regret. You swear the staff are crying when they turn their backs, and if you check the time, it's always 3:12 a.m. My stay was longer than I'd expected. In fact, I believe I may still be there, some portion of myself forever trapped in that not space at that same not time. At the end of the day, I find myself asking the same question all patrons eventually must ask. Are we there to consume the donuts?
Or are we there so the donuts may consume us?
Step right up, sugar. The donut hole's got fresh, hot delights. Just for you. Glazed, sprinkled, filled, each bite a little taste of home. But hold on to your hats, 'cause we've been cooking up something special. Check out these new donuts fresh out of the ovens.
The bogus donut.
It's like a bad idea you can eat. An edible mistake.
Rainbow cream gushers.
Get that good stuff all over your face, you monster.
Death donut.
100% fatal. 100% of the time.
Salmon something.
Salmon? What's that? I can't read that. Smells great.
Scorpion venom.
You can still feel their little legs wriggling.
The one which'll follow you home and touch your stuff while you're asleep.
On this spot, since December 12, 2002, the synthwave skeletons of Strathcona have appeared throughout this region, dancing with an imposing degree of revelry. Their rhythmic motions, while visually enticing, are thought to be psychologically viral, capable of transforming viewers into participants, their willingness unknown.
Something has gone wrong. Mutants are taking over the metropolis. Who can stop these terrifying creatures?
File 189B. The Neon Echoes of Temporal Displacement, a study of recursive identity in Strathcona's Phantom Dance. December 12, 2002. Opening thoughts.
What was this location originally? A community center? A secret nightclub? We may never know, since those records have been lost to time. Captain Time, a government-mandated machine that goes around at night chewing up official reports and property statements, spewing out dull, monochrome confetti across the quiet, pre-dawn streets. Is the dance an occult ritual meant to summon a hungry elder god that sleeps beneath the waves of English Bay? Or that massive creature that lurks beyond the northern mountain range? Is it some sort of hippie display of love, a kinetic expression of pure freedom? This much is known. The longer you listen, the stronger the music gets. Not faster, not louder, stronger. You can go out and dance with them, with the glowing skeletons. Oh, they'd love you to come twist the night away. But those who do don't always come back.
New dancers go through the following 6 phases or stages as they develop. Stage 1.
Clothes fall off. Nobody seems to disrobe. They're just gradually wearing less and less. Pants give way to underwear. Underwear gives way to socks. And then they're nude, their fleshy bits bobbling in the twilight.
Stage 2.
Fingernails and hair are the next to go. This process seems unpainful and pleasant enough, and when the stage is complete, their bodies are smooth, sleek shapes like land-born dolphins.
Stage 3.
As they continue to dance, their skin begins to shuffle off, not unlike how a snake or spider sheds its outer casing. Beneath the epidermal layer, muscle tissues are twitchy, eager to keep up with the rhythmic pulsing of the music.
Stage 4.
Organs go next, internal and external, including intestines, eyeballs, and cerebral matter. Where do they go? We don't know. Maybe they're just used up, expended as a form of energy. Something has to keep those bodies dancing, even when there's so little body left.
Stage 5.
Finally, we reach the final stage. Bones. Just bones. Grinning skulls on relatively genderless bodies. They raise their pale finger joints into the sky, experiencing great revelry as they wait for the beat to drop.
Stage 6.
Once the beat does drop, the skeletons begin to glow, like tubes of fluorescent lighting. Lemony yellows that cut through the darkness like spotlights, grassy greens that sparkle and sheen, caustic slashes of crimson red that shimmer like a house on fire, too sharp to touch. Purples so deep they flicker into the realm of the ultraviolet. Frantic lines of pink as bright as
chewed up bubble gum.
The dance itself has been described as like watching stop-motion animation happening in real time. The skeletons all smoothly jerking their bones to the music, the motions giving an impression of invisible hands working swiftly to shape and control the skeleton's movements.
Warning. 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 Warning.
The longer you watch them dance, the harder it is to resist the siren call, to rush out to the dance floor and join them. Is it the music that draws out new dancers, or is it the chance to belong to something more than what we've been offered by society? Do the skeletons know something the rest of us do not? Is that why their grinning faces smile so lewdly, so suggestively? Or are we just drawn like moths to the unnatural lights of the skeletons themselves, like ships in dark space, heading towards the possible illumination of civilization? I wonder, maybe we should join them. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe there's a better way to do this thing, to exist in this universe. Maybe those dancing skeletons have the right idea.
Scientific and ontological interpretations.
The synthwave skeletons of Strathcona might be interpreted as a bleed-through of neon spectral chronotopes, a phenomenon where collapsed temporalities manifest as semi-physical constructs. These entities could embody an entropic echo of individuals who, at some metaphysical juncture, engaged with a liminal auditory frequency, a soundscape existing outside conventional space-time metrics. The neon glow isn't merely aesthetic, but a plasmonic resonance, indicative of quantum destabilization at the subplanar level. Essentially, these skeletons are recursive avatars of disrupted identity, endlessly reperforming the moment of their metaphysical dislocation within a fractured causal loop. In this framework, their movements align with a broader metacosmic rhythm, suggesting they are both participants in and byproducts of a universal waveform seeking resolution.
Conclusion.
From The Spectral Algorithm of Resonant Decay by Dr. J. Frost. I must conclude that the phenomenon at Strathcona appears to function less like a haunting and more like an algorithm, a recursive loop of decaying identities coded into the fabric of local space-time. It has been suggested that the skeletons pulsing with neon brilliance are not mere echoes of what once was. They are prototypes of what might come next. Their dance floor is an interface, a place where the boundaries between physics and philosophy collapse under the relentless beat of an otherworldly rhythm. If the skeletons are transmitting a signal, then perhaps it is not for us to decipher. It could be a message to something else, something from the other side, where the outer church is waiting, under a blood-red sky, lit by a sun made of living flesh. The dance could be a call to their creator, beckoning it to come and join the revelry. For now, the skeletons remain bound to their endless circuit, their movements dictated by an untranslatable rhythm.
but the glow they emit lingers in the cracks of this city. It stays in the puddles on rainy nights, glinting faintly in your reflection. It hums in the static between radio stations, somewhere deep in the FM spectrum. You might not even notice it at first, a flash of pink against the skyline, a shadow that moves like a beat. But once you do, it's already too late. Because the truth is, the music never stops. It's just waiting for the rest of us to listen.